Hey everyone, it's Ben from NCR. So we recorded an episode of DC Mass last night, and unfortunately, I was an idiot and saved over the episode today when Ariel Noah and I were recording our Wonder Woman Year One, or Wonder Woman animated film episode. So the episode from last night is totally gone. I've been at it for about 30 minutes trying to figure out how to recover this episode, but unfortunately I'm just not able to. So Ariel Noah and I recorded an episode on the Wonder Woman animated movie. It's a monthly show that we're doing in prep for the Wonder Woman movie that's coming out in June. And that show was going to be available to patrons only, but since I messed up and lost the file from last night, we're just going to make this episode available to everyone, so at least you have something from NCR. Next week on NCR, we'll kind of go over a short recap of what our ratings were on this week's books. That way everyone knows at least what we rated them, and then we'll just continue on course as normal. Very sorry about that. I don't really know how I managed to screw that up, but I just dropped the ball and saved over it. So we appreciate you listening to us, and I hope you enjoy this episode that Ariel Noah and I did on Wonder Woman. Here you go.
In a world where there are too many comic books to keep up with, one podcast has the stones to bring you all of your comic book needs. Week by week. Book by book. One epic show. You are now tuned in to Nerd Church Radio.
All right, and hello and welcome to, what are we going to call this show? I don't know.
Countdown to Wonder for now until we get to the movie,
Yeah, Countdown to Wonder. Can you hear me?
June 2nd release.
Yeah. So welcome to NCR, Countdown to Wonder Woman. Yeah, I'm Ben Dupay.
I'm Noah O'Toole.
Ariel Dupay.
Hi, and yep, we are your Amazonian comic book overlords.
There we go. I like that.
This is a podcast that we're going to do for you guys. Half of it's going to be available on the NCR channel, and the other half is available if you go to our Patreon and donate at least $1 per month. You get access to the rest of this show. So we're very excited for the Wonder Woman movie. I've been for a while. I know Noah is probably the most excited.
Yeah, I am about ready to jump out of my skin for it.
Yeah. So it's going to be great. And so we thought, why not do like a monthly podcast leading up to the Wonder Woman movie and just maybe pick out one piece of media every month and just talk about that media that's related to Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. So this being sort of the origin story or the year one of our Wonder Woman podcast, we thought it appropriate to pick out the Wonder Woman movie, the animated film back in 2007. Mm-hmm. I think it's just called Wonder Woman the Animated Movie, I believe.
Yep. The title is just called Wonder Woman, but to kind of keep from confusion with live action and all that, it's Wonder Woman the Animated Movie.
Yeah. So great movie though, man. We just sat down and watched it together, and it was a lot of fun, man. It really reminded me a lot of the Nicholas Scott, Greg Rucka story that was just told, in DC Rebirth. So, Noah, do you want to kind of pitch us on this movie or talk about a little bit of what happens?
Yeah, I'll actually read the listeners the synopsis from the back. On the mythical island of Themyscira, a proud warrior race of Amazon women thrives, shielded from the corrupt world of man. But a betrayal leads to the escape of Ares, the god of war, and Amazon Princess Diana must capture him before he unleashes global chaos and destruction. With the aid of cocky fighter pilot Steve Trevor, Diana tracks Ares to the United States for a battle unlike any humankind has ever faced in this epic tale of the princess who becomes the world's greatest superheroine.
And that's about sums it up, man. I mean, that was awesome. One thing that stuck out to me, I guess, or was weird to me, was this was the first time I had ever seen Steve Trevor depicted in any sort of live format where I'm not reading him or imagining his voice, in my head.
Right.
What are your thoughts on Steve Trevor, you guys, and how he was depicted in this movie? Was it as you imagined him before seeing this, or, I mean?
Yeah, for me it definitely was. They nailed him. They've got a really good grasp on his voice. I think he has always been. He always calls her Angel, and he's kind of known as the cocky fighter pilot, and it's his kind of cockiness and womanizer attitude that is the yin and yang of Diana's Amazonian ways that are a little bit different, and he's been depicted in like Batman Brave and the Bold, some of the animated things here and there, and he's got just that same voice. Nathan Fillion plays his voice in this animated movie, and
which Nathan Fillion has also at other times, hasn't he voiced Green
Lantern?
Yeah.
That's funny because
totally
Steve Trevor reminded me so much of Guy Gardner.
Yeah. Oh, I would say him and Hal Jordan.
I was going to say Hal Jordan.
Yeah, they have a lot of similarities.
I started reading DC Comics heavily. I mean, I read New 52 quite a bit, but I started reading like everything basically with Rebirth, where I'm reading almost every title. And I guess I never really pictured Steve Trevor as a cocky sort of dude.
Yeah.
I always thought he was more of like a sad sack, kind of, because that's how he is in year one. It seems like he's kind of just mopey and sad a lot of the time.
The year one where he's where Nicholas Scott draws him and he's younger and always losing his shirt.
Yeah.
that one, I think I kind of read it a little bit more like now and then. Though the current story with they're starting with the God Watch and things like that, you don't know how many years have passed, but clearly a lot. It looks like he's gone through some rough times. He's a lot thinner and his face seems to be drawn more gaunt, like on purpose and kind of unshaven
and this is the one that oh man, I always forget the artist
Liam
name.
Sharp.
Liam Sharp draws.
Right,
yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's where I'm thinking about him being like a sad sack kind of, and just like.
Yeah, he's a little bummed. I think there's a lot going on in the Wonder Woman comic now.
He's like looking at a picture of Diana. It's this old like crappy photo of her, and his pilot friends are like. There's like better photos of her. And he's like, no, I just want to keep this one.
This one's
it's
mine.
Sweet.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's just he always seems like so sad and mopey. But I don't know. I like this version a lot better.
Yeah.
I like him. That kind of brings me to Chris Pine. What do we think about his casting as Steve Trevor?
I'm okay with it. There were other actors that I had heard were up for the role that I thought would be good. Clint Eastwood's son, Scott Eastwood.
Yes.
But then he got put in Suicide Squad, and he was one of Colonel Flagg's men.
Oh, wow.
He was the
know
guy
this.
that Colonel Flagg, wasn't he like, get your men ready, or whatever.
He was the guy that people were kind of almost speculating that might be Nightwing in Suicide Squad. There was a rumor going around for a while that like that was Scott Eastwood, and everyone was like, no one knows who he is, so is he Nightwing undercover and stuff? And didn't turn out to be him, which I'm grateful for. I don't like that guy for Nightwing personally.
Yeah.
But
from what I've seen in the previews for the two trailers that have been released for the Wonder Woman movie, by any apprehension I had is gone, because he seems to capture that, to the scenes where with Etta Candy and about to being a secretary, and he's just kind of like, okay, let's get let's leave.
He's
Keep
almost
walking and...
too pretty for me. Like, I kind of picture Steve being more rugged and like a soldier. And
Oh, do you? Yeah, I kind of think of him as a pretty boy,
Really?
but at the same time, Lyle Wagner played him in the 1977 Wonder Woman movie.
Oh yeah, I've never seen that one. I probably should go back and watch it. Or just
we might have
some
to watch we might have to watch the pilot and talk about it on one of these future episodes or something. But because it's
that
a
would
trip
be really
in and of
fun.
itself. Yeah.
I almost thought that like I don't know. He's probably too big or too much of a typecast for Star-Lord now. But Chris Pratt, I thought
for sure he would have. Yeah, he could have nailed it.
Like because he's just goofy enough, but he also has that like serious side. You know, I don't know. He's like the Harrison Ford of our generation to me.
Yeah,
like he's just
no one is the Harrison Ford.
Well, yeah, he's irreplaceable. But like I don't know, man. When I saw that dude in Parks and Rec, you know, it's like yeah, he's funny. He's all right. But then when you see him in Guardians of the Galaxy, you're like, holy shit, man, this guy is like, he can do good. And then Jurassic World was another one.
Great,
you know, it's like, man, this guy does good work. So and that's always kind of, I guess after watching that, I really pictured Chris Pratt in my head. But I'm really hoping they nail that comedic element of Steve Trevor in the live action movie. I think I really just hope that happens.
When the preview were like, he's waking up on the island and she's over him and she's like, "You're a man," and he's like, "Do I not look like one?"
Yeah, I know. Or there's one other part in the trailer, I forget. She talks about how she was molded out of clay.
He's like you don't have you've never seen a man before. What about your father? It's like, I have no father. I was given to life by Zeus.
He's like,
that's neat.
That's neat. Okay, sure. So how do you guys feel about Etta Candy in this animated film that we watched?
For the listeners, Etta Candy has been through a lot of changes. She started out originally as a short, plump sorority girl that was kind of Wonder Woman's sidekick. Woohoo! And you say woo-woo all the time. And then she kind of got reimagined as an African-American woman that worked along with Steve Trevor in the military, you know, and had some authority and things. Yeah. And then this animated movie took the opportunity to use the existing character's name, but it was unlike any Etta Candy we've ever seen. She was a statuesque blonde that had a crush on Steve Trevor. And
kind of a jerk, too.
Catty.
Yeah, she was catty, and her pen fell under her desk, and Diana, Wonder Woman's, you know, in her plain clothes or whatever, and she's jealous that, you know, Steve's with Diana. It was pretty funny. Yeah. So it was brief. I think, you know, they used her name as a well-known Wonder Woman character to add a little exposition about Diana being disillusioned with how women are taught to trade on their femininity, and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. That's one of the few reasons I'm almost glad this didn't get a sequel, because it's like they didn't. I don't know, man. I really like Jimmy. She's the Jimmy, and we were talking about this during the movie, but she's the Jimmy Olsen of Wonder Woman, right? You know, and like that to me is a huge part of that character. It's our best friend, essentially. You know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, the various iterations of that character. I mean, whether they've changed it or not, it's always seemed right to me in the comics. Like the black lady, you know, like the sort of
current one.
Yeah, I mean, like she still seems like Etta Candy to me.
Right.
The short, more overweight white lady that also still seems like Etta Candy. They both embody that spirit. This did not seem like Etta Candy at all to me. It was like, why use that name? It's kind of like, you know, we were talking about how they used Jimmy Olsen in Batman v Superman and just killed him off right away. It's like,
didn't even tell that it was him. I mean, you really didn't know unless you looked at the credits or, you know, read online or whatever.
Well, in the
extended version.
Yeah,
an extended version, right? Yeah, that does. Yeah,
but it's like, why even you know what? Why use that name for a throwaway character? You know, that just, I don't know, for someone that's so big in the comics. So So what else do we got? On
speaking
this
of
movie?
a not throwaway character, though, even though she, you know, was never really just regularly on the island with the Amazons, the Bonham McDowell were their own shoot-off tribe, but I just loved that Artemis was kind of second in command with Queen Hippolyta, and that she was included as, you know, a regular cast member, because there's, you know, not a lot of famous Amazons outside of Wonder Woman. Obviously, Artemis and Queen Hippolyta are, you know, the two big ones, and you know, couple Nubia, you know, is kind of famous. I'm sure we'll talk about her a little bit, being Wonder Woman's first black Amazon sister, but
okay. But I didn't know about that.
Blonde too, that like was kind of accentuated as Wonder Woman's lover.
Oh yeah, Mala.
Mala.
Yep. And
so what's the deal with Mala?
She actually appeared in All-Star Comics 8, the first appearance of Wonder Woman. She was just with her when Steve Trevor crashed.
Yeah.
And so then they brought her in, and then when the contest came, it came down to Mala and Wonder Woman.
Okay.
And Wonder Woman won, and that's really all we saw of Mala. But then now with Rucka's reintroduction, she came back and has been kind of reintroduced as like Wonder Woman's girlfriend or lover on Paradise Island.
Okay, when did that come out in the newer books?
Just in one of the first couple issues when she was getting ready to leave. I mean, she's talking about leaving, and Mala was like, my heart will go with you if you do, and she gives her a kiss on the cheek, and
it's never said, but it's definitely
subtle. It's that they had a close relationship.
Classy,
and
something maybe if you know about it, because I didn't know about it and I didn't catch it, but I think
it was brief, but
okay. That's cool.
But it's kind of like this most recent one showed Hippolyta and not Hessia. I can't remember which Amazon it was. But it kind of implied that she had spent the night with Hippolyta. Like she woke up late and things like that. And it's all just subtle and normal. Like it's their everyday life.
Yeah,
because that's
that's
how it would be. I think I was kind of surprised that Wonder Woman wasn't up for a GLAAD award that I saw, because I think out of all the books, it has one of the best representation of LGBT characters.
So what's a GLAAD award?
It's just an award given out to media,
so
positive media portrayal of LGBT characters. So like Will and Grace wins often back in the day, and for TV and things like that. And and
I love when
comics.
it's done where it's just a part of life. It's not like this huge thing that
they make a big deal out of it. Yeah,
it's
normalize
what it is.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. It doesn't really necessarily have to be made into like or I don't know. I want
an event,
right?
A spectacle.
It's just like
how to.
You haven't seen Rogue One, have you?
Oh nope, not yet.
Okay, I'll be quiet then.
Well, yeah, no. Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, we've talked.
I know that happens pretty much, but
no,
because there was a huge speculation that two of the guys are gay, and people are just wondering. And it just
it's Poe Dameron, isn't?
No.
No, this is in Rogue One.
I can't remember. It's the blind guy. And
gotcha.
his, friend.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it doesn't really matter, because all you see is that they love each other very much.
Right.
And that's all that really is important.
Well, and that's what the director actually came out, because, there's a pretty strong, like,
implication
that they are a couple, but it's never come out and said, and the director is just like, if you interpret it that way, that's fine. It really... It doesn't factor, they just care about each other a lot. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're gay or if they're best friends,
Right,
it's just,
right.
Yeah.
And so, I think stuff like that is really good, and it's not,
the way it should be.
It's only relevant if it's relevant, and that's why I think Wonder Woman does a really good job of incorporating that culture into it without, making it some type of big spectacle.
Right, without hitting you over the head.
Especially since sex is such a huge part of mythology. I mean,
right.
It's everywhere in it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of leads me into like Amazonian culture. I guess I sort of always was under the impression that this was just like a community of warriors. And then we come across, what's her name? Alexis?
Alexa or Persephone or Alexa, yeah.
And she's like the bookworm that doesn't want to fight and sadly gets slain in the movie, and but I guess, and then I stop and think about, it's a secluded island, so there has to be scholars there. There has to be, there has to be people that aren't just warriors.
Yep.
Is there a lot of information about Amazonian culture and stuff like that in the comic books?
Oh yeah, you bet. Certain runs do. Greg Rucka, go figure, is very big on that, and there's been several authors that revisit that. I do really like that, because it reminds me of, like, I don't know if anybody's seen the movie The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio back in the day, but
no.
You're basically on an isolated community, and everybody's got their role to play. And of course, the Amazons, much like the Spartans, you think, or whatever, are trained and are a warrior. But there's, of course, an army. But there's other ones that are cooks, and other ones that are fisherwomen, and other ones that Io is a blacksmith.
Right.
And Callista is the healer.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they all have cool roles to play in their own society.
Yeah, I mean, and there has to be. They need food. They gotta have people who cook. They need weapons. They gotta have people who make them. Are there any comic books or comic book runs that like you can think of off the top of your head that kind of go into Amazonian culture if you were really wanting to like immerse yourself into that world and read about it?
Yeah, boy, I wish I would have brought them with me, because I've got all the collected runs and stuff, and I can't think of what they're actually called. There's a run called Amazon's Attack, which isn't my favorite. Cersei kind of fools the Amazons into thinking things, and they attack, and it sets the Amazons back a little bit, but you get a lot of Amazons in it.
Right.
And like I said, anything that Rucka has written in the past will be chock full of rich Diana culture and history.
Okay.
Especially the ones where she's like an ambassador from Themyscira,
right,
and really tries to deliver the Amazonian message of truth and love and peace and things like that.
Well, this new rebirth title, The Odyssey of Amazons, I'm guessing we'll probably see a little bit more of that culture as well.
Yeah, the Odyssey of the Amazons miniseries has been fun because that's several hundred years before Wonder Woman, and I love the longevity of the Amazons, that they're an immortal race of women on the island. And
so there was certainly a lot of feminists, as always there is in Wonder Woman stories, and I think that's a big part of the lineage of that character. But there was a lot of sort of feminist messages in this movie that were pretty hilarious to me, honestly. I mean, not to poke fun at feminism or anything, but they were just like, it kind of flips the switch on the whole feminism and what people interpret to be like chivalry and stuff, and like it's like, well, is that, it's just kind of funny. Like Wonder Woman's like, I don't need you to hold the door for me, or I can open a car door myself, or I don't know. Yeah. Even the part where like Steve tries to get her drunk and he ends up playing the role of like the drunk girl, drunk girl, or whatever, and she has to take care of him and save him from the robbers and stuff like that. I love in Wonder Woman. So yeah,
they did have a lot. I liked a lot of the messages because it really had messages on both sides. It wasn't just feminism per se. Like I really liked when Persephone, who is the one that ended up betraying the Amazons, fought with Hippolyta at the end, and you kind of don't like her this whole time, because she killed, she's the one that killed Alexa so that Ares could escape, and then she fell in love with Ares and tried to backstab the Amazons, and she's kind of the bad guy. But then in her last fight, when she's when Hippolyta then kind of slays her for her crimes, she says, yes, we're Amazons and we're warriors, but we're also women, and you denied us love and children. And that really, because I like the Amazons not needing men and being warriors, and stuff. But not everybody, they're not all going to be like that. Women are going to want families and children, and that's wonderful, and it's
natural,
right? I like that message. So many people learned lessons in this movie. Wonder Woman learned that mankind is worth saving. Steve Trevor learned about himself and that women should be respected.
Artemis learned about books,
learned right the warrior way, that you can use your mind and brain in books too, and
not that she'll ever go that route typically. I mean,
right? But
she's always going to be wily Artemis.
But it was a touching lesson to see somebody like her read a book and be like, I'm trying, but it's fiercely boring.
Yeah. No, I'd love Artemis. So much,
and Hippolyta learned a lesson that it was probably not the best idea to cut themselves off from the world like that, and it all everybody learned good lessons, and it came together really nice, and really just kept the spirit of Wonder Woman in love and lessons.
Yes.
And that's part of why it appealed to me as such a great movie, and
it really
leaves me really hoping for the live action, of course. But
man, it kind of I don't wish it had a sequel for Etta Candy, but it's like it really wrapped itself.
She was such a minor part, though. She had
then
4 minutes at the most.
But then at the same time, it wrapped itself up really nicely, and it had like a little teaser at the end.
There was a nice cameo. Yeah,
I mean, like Cheetah shows up at the end. That's one of Wonder Woman's largest villains.
Best villain. Yeah. My favorite.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think Ares is probably. It's between Ares and Cheetah for me, or they're my two favorite or whatever that I really like them. I still haven't read. Ariel read the entire. Who's the writer?
Azzarello.
Yeah, sure. Azzarello run. I still haven't read it. I read the first 5 issues. I think.
Freaking tastic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've heard that it's very, very good. So
it's funny in those books, like every god in it, I've hated and loved, throughout the series.
Yeah, he does a real. Yeah, they all were really reimagined.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Like Hera, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me into Ares in this movie, and that's another character. You have lots of characters that just have had very, very different interpretations over the years. And that's like, we have the old man Ares, and we have just the Ares that looks like a mortal human being, like a middle-aged guy, I guess, or whatever. And then we have the beastly warrior Ares.
Yeah, full armored and yeah.
And then there's even the Injustice Gods Among Us Ares that's like black skin with like red cracks underneath it and stuff, and like that's just the total like, to me, seems like the more generic, like God of War. That's what you would expect him to look like. I almost. I don't know. What do you prefer for an Ares interpretation? What's your favorite interpretation of that character?
Probably I call it like the Perez Ares, the one that's usually everybody kind of pictures first, similar to the Injustice one. Blue armor, the big blue armor.
I'm sorry, Perez, like
George Perez.
George Perez. Okay, cool. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So big blue armor.
Yeah, the big blue armor. The face mask with the nose piece going down the middle, like the Spartans wear, and the whatever hair thing at the top and cape. Very much like we just recently saw in the Wonder Woman Year One story.
Yeah.
That pretty much is exactly kind of my picture. But this movie had him look a little different. But to me, he really still kept that essence. He didn't always have the helmet on, but he had that foreboding largeness and powerfulness.
Yeah, totally. No, I dug it. Yeah, Ariel, what's your favorite interpretation of Ares?
Man, I guess, probably the same, the big armor, just because you picture him as a god of war. So, like, he did war throughout history. That's kind of the same armor that they've worn, so.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just always like to go with the unexpected, so I think the old man is probably, because it just cracks me up. It's just funny. It's not what you would expect, and it's hard to catch someone by surprise on a DC comic book anymore because they're just old stories, and you just don't get. Now, that being said, there are a lot of people who probably don't like the old man look just because it's like, that's not the character I'm used to or whatever.
Right,
so.
yeah. Overall, the New 52, for me, isn't my favorite run. There's several that are way, way, way worse. I mean, it was still very, very good, and I liked it, but...
are you talking about for Ares or just for Wonder Woman
in general, yeah.
Oh, really? I thought you kind of loved the Azzarello run of Wonder Woman.
I mean, I did, but my problems with it ran in that, one, it took her completely out of the DC universe for years. I mean, like, there were no crossovers, no guest stars in any of those issues. It was all just her and her mythological universe.
Yeah.
And, so it just, it was still a great story, but it removed her from some of the other elements I liked a lot. And they did change her origin, and she was an actual union of Zeus and Hippolyta versus being made of clay, which, I mean, I was on the fence on that. In some ways, it seemed to make her more powerful, but then in other ways, it took away from one of the very things that made her a feminist character.
Yeah, a guy wasn't involved in the creation. It was this immaculate conception that only women were involved with.
Right, exactly.
So I dig that personally.
Me too.
I don't like the changing up of the origin. That's one of those fundamental things about the character.
Yeah, and one of the other things he did that is kind of true to some stories in mythology, but really ticked a lot of people off, was that once a year the Amazons would set sail, capture sailors, basically rape them and keep the girl babies and destroy the boy babies. And that was how they kept their population going on the island.
The Amazons did this?
In the New
They
52.
didn't kill the boy babies. They sent them to
Well, you find out
Apollo.
later.
Yeah.
You find out later that Hephaestus has actually been collecting the boy babies. So there's a whole race of boy Amazons, basically.
That's weird.
And
It
it was a little weird. And like she wanted to unite them, and so, but yeah.
I don't know how I feel about all that. That seems a little strange to me.
But from the mythological standpoint, it was super creative and really dark, and so there were a lot of bright points, but some also dark points. So that's why it kind of just falls in the middle for me.
It almost seems like it could be a really great Elseworld story.
Right.
I feel like that's something you'd read in like Flashpoint Paradox or something.
Well, in mythology, I mean, it kind of plays on the whole the siren leads a sailor and to his death.
Yeah,
the siren,
the
lady,
sirens.
sailor.
Yeah.
Can you? What's that mean?
Just like there's a lot of creatures in mythology where like they sing a song and it lures sailors in, and then the woman does she rape him or does she just kill
Well,
him?
in the Iliad and the Odyssey is Homer's
that's-
Iliad and the Odyssey, which also introduces Circe, which is another one of Wonder Woman's big villains. But there are the sirens, which are basically like mermaids, sea nymphs, and they sing, and their song enchants sailors, and they jump overboard and drown. And and they're all on this rock, as like Jason and the Argonauts, I think, are trying to set sail for the Golden Fleece or something.
I think so.
And anyway. Yeah, I haven't read.
It's been a while,
Iliad
but it
and the Odyssey for a long
reminds me
time,
of
but
that.
right.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I see, and like the mythology stuff. I'm not.
mythology.
See, yeah, as a kid, I always loved
my gosh.
constellations and stuff, and so it got me into mythology, which just kind of coincided with comics. And then one
Did you ever
it all.
read Percy Jackson?
No, I was a little too old for that, but I did see the movie in the theater, and I liked it a lot. Yeah.
I loved them.
Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I've never gotten into mythology. It does make sense that you would be more into DC comic books, both of you, just because Marvel comics are more grounded in reality, I think.
A lot of time, yeah.
And DC comics are more grounded in mythological characters, and even Superman.
There's some mythology like with Loki and Thor. I mean, those are very.
There's certainly
Some
a
Norse
little bit.
mythology
Norse,
in that, yeah.
Yeah, there's certainly a little bit. There's just
Not as much.
Yeah, not as much
Right.
as DC. I mean, like Wonder Woman, it doesn't get much more.
Yeah, that's flat
mythological
out,
than
yeah.
that. Yeah. So we talked about Ares a little bit. I kind of want to talk about Hades because that's someone I've not really ever read or heard. I mean, I've heard his name. There was a Disney movie. It was an animated movie.
Hercules.
Hercules.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I enjoy that movie too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I remember Hades in that. But yeah, I mean, talk a little bit about Hades. What's his deal? What's he the god of?
yeah. He's the god of the underworld.
Okay.
And essentially, in Greek mythology, Zeus is the king of the gods, and he
Okay.
has two brothers. One is Poseidon, who he gave rule of all the oceans,
Okay.
and the other one is his brother Hades, who he gave rule to the underworld.
Okay, and that's. I'm sorry. Who's their father? Zeus.
Zeus is a brother.
Brother, yeah.
Oh.
They're all those are brothers. Yep.
Oh, so Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades
Poseidon
are all.
and Hades are brothers. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay.
And then
And
Zeus
from
married
them,
Hippolyta.
yes.
Or Zeus
Hera.
married Hera, and she's the queen of the gods. And from them, they had lots of children like Ares, Aphrodite, Athena, Artemis, the goddess, Apollo, I think.
Okay.
So there's some odd family trees in Greek mythology, but essentially the big three are Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades.
Yeah.
And Hades is the god of the underworld. And in the New 52, he was portrayed as a little kid
Yeah,
with the
which
candles
is
and the
so
wax and
creepy
stuff, which was really
and-
creepy and weird.
And I love how
Yep.
they like blew out his candles. And
Yeah.
that was the end of him. Like,
Yeah.
Huh.
And then in this version, he was a very obese man on a Diaz eating, grapes and
Yeah,
very.
I almost didn't know what to make of that.
I didn't
was-
like it. I honestly.
I liked it just because it was unexpected.
That's
for
true.
me,
It's another one
It
of
almost
those-
reminded me of Bacchus. We were talking like the god of,
Yeah,
of wine and
that's what I was
partying and
thinking
drinking,
of.
and and he,
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of that just because he seemed very, gluttonous and.
Yeah, that's what
whatnot,
I was
but-
thinking. That's the word I've been trying to think of. It seemed like I was wondering if that was like the god of gluttony or whatever. Like, 'cause
Right.
but it's like ruler of the underworld.
Yeah, he's the god of the
This-
underworld.
This big fat dude sitting around eating grapes. That
Yeah.
doesn't. I don't know. But again,
But he
yes.
was so cruel because
Yes.
Ares had that was kind of the premise of some of the early parts of the movies. Ares forced himself on Hippolyta, and she bore him a son. And the two of them have just been wreaking havoc on mankind in the Amazons. And so she kills the son, beheads him.
Right.
And Zeus then puts bans on Ares that essentially make him mortal, and the Amazons can keep him as a prisoner instead of killing him.
So how does that jive with sort of the comic book and the mythological history? I mean, the bracelets that only a god can remove.
Yeah.
Is that something that's happened in comics?
Not really. Not that I can think of, but I mean, it certainly worked for this. I want to point out that Gail Simone co-wrote this movie,
Yeah.
which makes because she's a big Wonder Woman fan, big feminist,
so
big
great.
just brilliant writer. And,
The first comic I ever read was the first because I'm sure I read comics here and there as a child, but
Yeah.
not very much. The first graphic novel I ever read was by Gail Simone.
Right.
And, she
Batgirl.
She's her. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
for
Yep.
sure.
Yeah. Batgirl, New 52,
Yeah.
and man, her Twitter cracks me up.
Yep.
She's just hilarious,
Yep.
man. I love her so much. She's
Yep.
a great author.
The reason was a
Persephone.
yeah. Doesn't Hades have a wife that like he's tricked into staying?
In Greek mythology, Persephone was kidnapped and taken to the underworld, and she's like why there are seasons.
Yes,
because her mother was something with the earth, and she got to come back in the spring and then go back to the underworld in the winter, and that was how they
the only
explained.
thing that really confused me about it. But
and I think they just a lot of times when you get names of Amazons, they name them after Greek characters and things, so that's why Artemis gets a little confusing because she was named after obviously the goddess Artemis, but like we said, there's
the goddess of the hunt.
Right? Yep. And so you've got the goddess Artemis, the Amazon Artemis, the archer from Young Justice Artemis. There's a female Fury named Artemis. So
when we have a daughter, we should just name her Artemis.
Name her Artemis. Yeah.
Name her Artemis. Yeah, I don't know.
That's a good name. But
I don't know if I want to deal with Artemis as a daughter. That seems like she might murder me.
I could handle it.
Yeah, I don't know. Artemis is pretty crazy, even for you. So, So, one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit in the film, there's like this mirror that Hippolyta can, she's at the Themyscira and she looks in this mirror and she can see the other world,
sphere, right?
And it kind of pulls like in Evil Dead in Ash, where he touches the mirror and it like turns into like a lake or ripples or whatever. There's a second Evil Dead reference.
Right.
There's another one where skeletons came alive, and that was of course an Army of Darkness reference.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm getting off topic here. What's the deal with this mirror that allows them to see into the other world?
Yeah, and actually Wonder Woman issue 1 back in 41. Marston wrote the sphere, the mirror, basically into it. So that was actually very, very old school Wonder Woman lore.
That's like Golden Age.
Yeah, definitely Golden Age. Yep. And when pretty much the same thing in Wonder Woman issue 1, when Diana kind of asks about mankind and things, Hippolyta shows her the mirror, and they're able to gaze upon the past with that and kind of see Steve Trevor's mission and stuff. They went a little hokier with some of that when, it was a different time. It was the 40s, or whatnot.
Right.
But
so it's a mirror that allows you to see into the world, but I mean, as far as interacting with it and touching and stuff, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, this is kind of really the first time it's been quite like this in this animated movie. They seem to imply that it is what keeps Themyscira hidden.
Yeah, which.
And I mean, it works for the movie. It's kind of just advances it makes sense for the plot or whatever. But
because that's what allows Steve Trevor's plane to like. What happened there? Because I kind of spaced out for a second during the movie when it happened. But I know Hippolyta was touching the mirror, and
they left that very ambiguous. And trust me, I have spent a lot of time trying to figure out exactly what happened. But Steve Trevor and his two co-pilots get in a dogfight above the island, basically, and everybody but Steve gets killed and goes down. And they notice that there's activity over the island, and Hippolyta is watching it through the mirror, which is how they can see things. That's been in the like in Wonder Woman #1, and she touches it, and it kind of makes Themyscira reappear, and that's where you get the impression that that's what keeps it hidden. But then they don't show the Amazon; they just show a fist punch the mirror. And then the island appears, and Steve finds something to crash on. And I've looked very closely because the fist that punches the mirror has no bracelets, no.
Was it Wonder Woman's then?
Because she was out riding the horse. Because that's my first thing too. But Artemis had brown wraps
bracelets
on, and Queen Hippolyta had the bracelets. Of the bulletproof bracelets on. The only one I can think of is Alexa.
She is the one that wanted to.
She is the one that wanted to, kind of bring man together. But so maybe she snuck in and did it, but they left it ambiguous. But anyway, one of the Amazons touches the mirror that allows Steve Trevor to see the island and
which
land.
is funny because in most continuity, it's like only the gods are
right
can
now.
Access,
yeah, now it's more on like a divine plane of reality.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just interesting. It's something I've never sort of read in the comics or seen anywhere else. It was really kind of weird. I didn't know.
Very, very originally, like back in Wonder Woman #1 in Sensation Comics and stuff, Themyscira, well, they called it Paradise Island back then, but it was in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, that's funny because that's like
And and now
that's
modern.
a modern day mythology thing. Actually,
Well, I see. Back in the 40s,
day.
that probably would have made perfect sense,
Yeah.
because everybody
Yeah.
it was still mysterious. And now, of
Now
course,
they
it seems
figure
way
out
more
why.
sense to be in the Aegean Sea next to Greece.
Yeah.
But
So previously in comic books, because in the movie Steve Trevor got through because someone punched this mirror, and that allowed him to see the island or go down, whatever, how he got there. How was he allowed into the Themyscira previously in other adaptations of Wonder Woman?
they don't really say he
just
kind
crashes
of crashes. Yeah, he is in the right place at the right time, kind of
I've always figured one of the gods was like, let's play a
divine
game.
intervention
Yeah.
and right. Yeah.
Yeah, I always just wondered that because generally it's the Themyscira is not an easy place to get to,
Right,
So it's
right.
like, how did they allow him?
It
to
generally
get there?
all since it all originally kind of took place during the Second World War, and he was kind of like a spy or like a just an intelligence officer in Europe, and obviously that's next to the Mediterranean Sea, and he gets in a fight with the enemy planes and crashes on
So-
some uncharted island in Greece that turns out to be
Themyscira.
Themyscira. Yeah.
Okay, so the Themyscira is actually located close to Greece. Then is actually now in the
Yes.
comics.
Yep.
That's obviously before it was Bermuda Triangle at the beginning, and
Yep.
yeah. Have they ever figured out? I know there's tons of missing planes and stuff that back in the day that flew over the Bermuda Triangle. To me, logic says obviously they just died and they're somewhere at the bottom of the ocean. But
Right.
I mean, has there ever been any investigation?
Yeah,
into that?
they have an answer now. I can't remember exactly what it is, but there's an underwater river that has some kind of electricity type thing in it that causes the airplane to crash, messes with the controls.
No shit. Wow.
Yeah, they solved it.
I'll have to read that. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I had also heard that there's actually no more planes or ships go down in that area than anywhere else. It's just that the ones that do go down have all been under mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, 'cause
I don't know if
there
that's true or not. That's just something
Who are the people that invented the airplane?
the Wright brothers.
Yeah, did they go down? It was someone famous.
Amelia
Earhart.
Earhart.
Amelia Earhart. Okay, that was okay.
But she actually is probably over by Indonesia.
Yeah.
I think they found her plane, but
Oh, really?
yeah.
And
Wow.
the way the water is there, when people say ghost ships, it's actually the water reflecting the ships that have already drowned. And that's why people have reported seeing ghost ships.
Oh, okay.
I watch a lot
So
of
you're
History Channel.
so you're saying, Ariel, that there's some type of Gulf Stream or something like
Yes.
that under there that causes, and that makes sense.
There's
I
definitely
suppose.
underwater rivers and
Yes,
currents, and there's
yeah.
underwater waterfalls.
And they found
What?
it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can Google. There's some crazy pictures out in like by Indonesia and stuff that you can. The water's so blue and clear, and you can see this underwater waterfall. Basically, I mean, it's currents, basically,
Yeah.
but
The ocean's a scary.
it is. I know.
Holy crap, that is insane.
yeah.
I just
I say Google underwater waterfall right now, and you'll see what
Yeah.
Ben's seeing.
Oh my gosh, that's absolutely just cool. Wow, I had no idea. Very cool. You learn something new every day.
Yep.
And this is why I love, you're never going to get into these conversations talking about Spider-Man or,
Right.
and I love Spider-Man personally. I know you're not a huge fan, Noah, and my
That
wife.
was my first.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
right,
Ariel's
right.
first. But I don't know. To me, there's I like stuff that's a little more rooted in mythology and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I really like that. There was one thing they mentioned in the movie that I wanted to bring up. The lasso was sent to the Themyscira by Arrow. What's the deal with that? I guess
In the movie,
they
there's
said
been
something right before that,
yeah,
but then they said sent by Arrow.
In the movie, the lasso was bequeathed to the Amazons by the goddess Hestia
Okay.
and delivered by Arrow from Mount Olympus. And Arrow's messenger of the gods, kind of like Apollo and Mercury and
Hermes.
Hermes. Yeah, Mercury is the Roman version, but he's one down from Hermes,
Okay.
and that's just how they explain the lasso in Wonder Woman #1. Marston, the creator of Wonder Woman, explained it as being made out of the golden girdle of Gaia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was given to Queen Hippolyta to symbolize her, is more of a belt than a girdle. I know that word's kind of weird, but
Yeah.
that symbolizes her authority of the Amazons.
Okay.
And Hercules in real mythology was sent to retrieve the girdle as one of his 9 labors of Hercules, 7 labors of
Pretty sure
Hercules.
it's 7.
Okay, and then the Amazon mythology in DC Comics spins off right from that. Hercules, takes the Amazons prisoners, and Aphrodite gives them the strength to free themselves from him and retreat to their own island. And
And in Earth 1, isn't that what happens? And then Hercules is the father.
yeah,
of-
Hercules. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's definitely based. It really does root it more in not that mythology is any more real than comic books,
Yeah.
but it seems real because I know people really believed in it, and we have all this real history of the Greeks and things, and
Yeah, I mean, these
It's
are
just cool.
myths. These are myths that have existed
I mean, people
centuries.
worship
centuries,
these gods.
centuries.
Centuries, yeah. Deimos. What's the deal with Deimos?
yeah, Deimos.
Deimos.
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's so good. Interesting enough, the planets, as we all know, in our own solar system, are named after the Roman gods, and a lot of the moons then they would name after the Greek gods. And the planet Mars, the god Mars, is the equivalent. The Roman god Mars is the equivalent to the Greek god Ares.
Okay.
So Mars and Ares are basically the same person. And the planet Mars has 2 moons. They're actually captured asteroids, but they're 2 moons, and their names are Phobos and Deimos. And because those are like Ares or Mars's 2 generals or warriors, or maybe even children in some versions,
demigods.
along with Eris or Strife, in other words.
Okay.
So he Ares has some descendants of his own, and Phobos and Deimos are just they mean fear and terror,
Panic.
fear and panic.
Yeah.
And that's been used in the current
I was going to
Wonder
say
Woman.
the 2
Yeah.
dogs are named Fear and Panic
Yep.
as well. So is
Yep.
that
It's definitely in that light, and I think we'll learn a lot more about that as the next couple issues come up. So.
do we think at some point we'll see those 2 dogs morph into Fear and Panic? Because we've seen them.
I
with
hope so.
We've seen them with red glowing
right.
eyes.
Something I have some theories, but we'll maybe have the listeners check back next week on Nerd Church Radio when I
Okay.
review the next issue of Wonder Woman,
Okay.
and we'll talk about some of that, because I think we'll get some answers, I feel.
Very cool. Sorry, keep hitting
But
me.
yeah, in the movie though, Ares sends Deimos
Just Deimos.
to kill the Amazon that brought Steve Trevor back, and he's just portrayed as a giant monster general of Ares with a beard made out of snakes, and it's kind of her first epic god.
And that was
battle.
who we saw her battle with in the animated
animated
film.
movie.
That
Yeah.
was Deimos.
That was Deimos. Yeah.
Okay, so we never see.
We never
his
saw Phobos.
counter.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but they're just real characters in Greek mythology and associated with Ares and the god of war.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was cool. I didn't really make that connection before. So that was about all the notes that I had taken while watching that movie. Were there any other things that you guys had thought to bring up from the animated film?
From you, Aaron?
You can go first.
Boy, I don't know. I like I was saying, they and we were talking. There's a few things that they changed to fit, I think, an animated format and
Yeah.
a 90-minute time frame. But essentially, it really kept all of the core aspects, characters, messages that are core to Wonder Woman, and
With the exception of Etta Candy.
with the
yeah,
exception of Ed
yeah,
Candy, yeah, and wrapped it up in a nice and my opinion is that animated movie we just watched is to date the best Wonder Woman portrayal
I agree.
in the media outside
Definitely.
of comic books. So
Yeah.
we'll definitely see what the live action movie holds. But in the meantime, if you cannot wait, go rent or buy this
Yeah.
movie.
Yes.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
The special features are excellent. There's some documentaries
really?
on Wonder Woman and Greek mythology and things, and
We may have to borrow that from
yeah,
you
definitely.
so
And
we
there's
can-
a lot's packed into it. It's great, and it's probably pretty affordable because it came out in 2007. But it's no less relevant. I mean, it's on Blu-ray and it's rated PG-13, so it's
Nice.
one of the
Yes.
official DC animated movies. It's not just like the kiddie cartoons you see on
Yeah.
Cartoon Network.
It really surprised me too because I love DC animated films. I thought I had seen them all, and I've actually searched on Google best DC animated films, and you get a list of titles at the top. I thought I had seen everything, man.
Yeah.
So when you told me about this, I was pretty surprised about it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this doesn't get the the top 10 lists
Yeah.
and things like that. And
Which is
I don't quite
crazy.
understand
It's
it.
so
Yeah, I
good.
don't.
Really
I don't
good.
either. It was a very good.
I would
very
say
good
it's
watch.
even better than Throne of Atlantis.
If I had to,
I would
I
agree with
loved
that. I would agree with that.
if I had to rate this on NCR standards, I'd definitely give it a high holy. I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
Ariel, did you have anything else? to
There
bring
was
up?
one line that kind of bothered me when she was. I think she's fighting Ares, and she's like, "How can you be whoever if you can't beat a girl?"
Oh, yeah.
I was like, "Would Wonder Woman really?" Say
I know. I kind of wonder. I
that?
think she was kind of being
sassy,
snarky, right? Yeah, she's learned
Yeah.
learned to be sassy for the first time, and she's like, how are you going to beat Zeus if you can't even beat a girl? You know, like taha. Or whatever.
It's very hard to pull off Wonder Woman being kind of snarky or stuff like that because she is like one of the main words I would use to describe Diana is genuine,
Right.
And so if you pull off the snarky thing in the wrong way, it comes off as disingenuous, which is not how she is. You know, that's the
Right.
opposite. If she's anything, she's genuine.
Right,
You know,
I agree,
You
yeah.
can take her at face value.
And also, like, she's from a different world, so comments like that probably wouldn't resonate with
Yeah,
her.
some of the things I kind of felt she was learning as she went. Like the other thing she said that when she was fighting Ares was, "I've learned it's not polite to hit a lady."
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, and then they go back to at the end scene, you know, with the car door, lifting the car door,
Yeah.
and things. And
Yeah,
I think the
see-
message overall, it might have come off odd in places here and there. I
Yeah.
think the message overall was that, you know,
It's
it's okay to
silly.
be nice to people. You know,
Yeah.
chivalry is
Yeah.
is kindness, not trying to keep you down or
Yeah.
whatever. And
Yeah.
I think they just had to play into some of the common sexist tropes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just because
yeah.
it's
Yeah, they
ingrained
did.
in the
Well, so
nature and the
Steve hits at
material,
her the whole
right?
Yeah. Yeah,
My-
that
I
was-
think my favorite part where he like tries to get her drunk and she's like, "You tried to get me drunk,"
I love
as
when
if you
she
could
says-
outdrink an Amazon. You pathetic lightweight.
Yeah, I know, man. It was awesome. It was just so great, man. I don't know. I love this movie. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, cool. Well, we are just about at time here. Quick, if you guys had to rate it on the NCR standards, I'm pretty sure I know what your ratings are, but what?
Yeah,
just for the record.
without a doubt, it's a salvation for me. I
I
loved
have to
it.
give it a salvation.
Yeah,
I really
I give it a high holy.
High
I think
holy,
it's
yeah.
super close to a salvation for me. It's just there's other.
If they would have
ones.
just tweaked that a candy a little better, it would have been salvation, huh?
That-
Yeah,
that's
okay.
That's the one
There you
points
go.
I got to take off for it, but it's.
I'm gonna
again,
pretend her name was like Di or Jenna.
Mary Sue. Yeah, I don't know.
something else. Yeah. Otherwise, though, man, I still highly recommend it. So, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your patronage. We really appreciate that. If you want to find us anywhere online, you can find us at Nerd Church Radio. And if you want to find me on Twitter, I am at Indie Comic Ben. That's INDIE Comic Ben. Noah, where can we find you?
Check out my website. Got links to social media and everything Wonder Woman I find. NoahOtoole.com/WordPress.
And
Ariel?
I am Ariel the Oracle at Twitter.
Awesome. Okay, and that is all we have. So have a great week,
Stay
everyone.
wonderful.
Yep.
Adios.
Bye.